casting back through time. We're taking a trip in the TARDIS, and instead of going to the 80s, we're moving back to 1966.
Oh shit, I have
Good
a
old
bite.
1966.
Oh shit.
You have a bike?
A bite. I casted my fishing line.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
It took me a second
Move
to
on.
realize what metaphor you were going for. Okay, we're moving on from that metaphor. It's season 4, serial number 9, the finale of season 4. Evil of the Daleks.
Woohoo.
In the previous episode, for those that may not be listening in chronological order, the Faceless Ones, Ben and Polly left, and we were left with the second Doctor and Jamie chasing down someone who had just stolen the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And that's where this episode begins.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens in the Evil of the Daleks, dear?
Well, a plane takes off, and there's a truck that has the TARDIS, and it's driving away. Jamie and the Doctor are running the best they can to get to it. They can't get to it, so they go in a building, and there's really fucking loud music, so they ask where the police box is going. And Jamie is being Scottish about it and stuff, so which way are they going? Well, they're being listened to over the radio. Someone is listening to them, and he's like, oh, well, someone signed for the TARDIS, and the firm was named Leatherman or something, and the Doctor's like, okay, we should leave now. And the man looks around and asks if the other guy got all that, and he says yes. And the Doctor and Jamie are trying to figure out what's going on already, which, meanwhile, the sneaky radio man calls to base, and a man with mutton chops answers saying he knew it would work. So they jump in a taxi cab and are told to follow the car that has the other man in it, and Mutton Chops is met by someone named Perry. Also, he has a flower in his jacket, and he says, it's here, my friend. And Mutton Chops is apparently collecting Victorian antiques, and he's also like, wow, if I did not know it, this would be a perfect forgery. That's bizarre. And he's like, dude, I pay you, stop talking, go away. Don't do anything with the police box, by the way, except wait. And that wasn't like a wait, hold on. It was like you just need to wait. Like time needs to pass. The Doctor is caught up to the other car and wants to go down the shady alley to look for them. And the car driver apparently is being paid, and he's going to be paid extra to beat the Doctor's head in. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. He gets his head beaten in. And then they run in, and they find the dude with his head beaten in. And this dude rolled his own cigarettes, and there's another box of cigarettes here, so that couldn't have been this dude's. To which the man wakes up, takes his money, and fucking books it. And then they call... They like, oh look, it's a coffee bar called the Tricolor Bar.
Tricolor.
It's tricolor. It's tricolor.
Tricolor.
They pronounce it tree. I don't know why they do that.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe French. Something France. France, can you tell us?
Un, deux, trois? No. It'd be the trois colored bar.
Well, I don't know if that's, like, maybe it's not called, like, the tricolored as in, like, 3-colored bar. Maybe it's called that for, like, some other reason.
Well, it's stupid.
That's what
anyway,
I mean.
The original beater dude comes and tells Mutton Chops what's happening, and they planted the cigarettes and the matches, and it all worked like a charm to get them where they want to go. Mutton pulls out pictures of the Doctor and Jamie and goes, are you sure it's them? And he's like, yes. And Mutton is, will you tell me what you are doing? And he goes, no, fuck off. Then Mutton Chops opens a secret door with an antique vase in the middle of the room, among other things. And then he hides the key and his doings again. And the Rosecoat Man shows back up and goes, wow, you got another thing. It looks legit. This will make so much money. Wow. And then he asks him to go meet the Doctor at the coffee bar, actually, and then come to the shop at like 10 p.m. And he leaves, and Mutton goes and sits in the throne in that weird room. And he just hangs out there. Back at the coffee bar, they're depressed, unsure of everything, very confused. The Doctor feels like there's some other enemy coming or something, and he's worried about, of course, in an episode named The Evil of the Daleks. There's no other enemy. Of course not. Mutton Chops keeps being demanded in his chair from a computer that it won't talk to him, and then the Doctor thinks that someone is staring at him, so what does that mean? It's Rose Perry dude. And he offers him his card and tells him to come to this clock shop. And he's like, okay. And we find Mutton Chops has locked his study so that no one can get it all. And we ask the beater to wear dark clothes and cover up the TARDIS for tonight because we need his help. And then Mutton Chops walks away and we pick his lock. And we look around for stuff, find a knife, open a box, which has a key, which opens the bookshelf into the weird room. So, okay.
Little escape room.
I guess I'll press some buttons, look around. Oh, there's a safe here behind this vent that was fake. And then when he, starts to get into it, the machine starts to light up and a Dalek music track starts. So that's weird. There's no Daleks in this episode. Then a Dalek materializes. Oh, no. And inside the safe, there's...
What?
Oh, shocking. Oh. And inside the safe, there's a lot of money. But the Dalek is like, who are you? And, yeah. Not that, yeah. That's, yeah.
Yeah. That's the beginning of the evil of the Daleks, and just like every Terry Nation written Dalek story, the cliffhanger of episode 1 is a Dalek appears. Even though this wasn't written by Terry Nation, this was actually written by David Whittaker, who was the story editor a while ago before this episode, but you're right. You come back and write. This serial was intended to be the Doctor's final battle with the Daleks altogether. Because Terry Nation wanted to go off and make a show with the Daleks in America. And he owned the rights to the Daleks, so there was nothing the BBC could fucking do about it. As time proved, that didn't pan out exactly as he wanted. The US gave no shits. The pilot, I don't think even, got made.
No.
The script got written, but it didn't get made. And he came kind of crawling back. And they kind of let him again. But this is meant to be the the end of it. This is okay, this is why the Daleks are no longer going to show up in Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. And they kind of went, okay, well, if we can't use the Daleks anymore, we'll use something that the BBC does have 100% of the rights to. I know. We'll make the Cybermen the top dogs now. They'll be the big monster that comes back week after week, which is why the very next episode after this is the Tomb of the Cybermen. If you remember that one, the one where they go to a tomb filled with Cybermen.
Yeah.
And then the end of that season is The Wheel in Space, which is about Cybermen. And then the season after has The Invasion, which is about Cybermen invading. It's... You get what they were going for. Is
our
this is
next
it. This is
big thing.
This is the new big one.
Woo!
Yeah, the Cybermen kind of didn't pan out that way. It's not that they weren't that big, but they were nowhere near as big as Daleks. Nowhere near as big.
It's almost
also
like
say they weren't consistent because... Well, it's mainly because the Daleks had the same design every time, but every time that the Cybermen came back, they changed the design of them because they always had to change what they looked like because the materials had to,
maybe it's also
be
because
made differently.
They suck.
Sure, whatever.
I really fucking hate the Cybermen, okay? I really hate them.
I will concede, a lot of Cybermen stories are not that good because they don't play up what makes the Cybermen good, and it's the fact that the Cybermen are cybernetic humans who became Cybermen to survive. It's all about extreme circumstances of humanity's survival and what it means to be human, and would you make the sacrifice to basically lose your humanity to still survive? It's why the best Cybermen story is the audio adventure Spare Parts, which is all about people who are pushed to the brink of a society that has fallen apart, and people are dying from hunger, from famine, from cold, and they willingly turn themselves into Cybermen because they genuinely believe it is how they can survive.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. It's when it talks about that shit, that's what makes the Cybermen great. But most of the time in classic Doctor Who, they kind of just make them monster that appears, which you can get away with doing that with the Daleks because making a villain Daleks is easy because you just need to make a villain fascists and boom. But Cybermen are more complex than Daleks, which is why they can be misused quite a bit. But anyway, I will say also in this one, when they go to the bar and you hear music playing in the background, Dear Immediate was like, that is not 60s music. It's the fucking Beatles, dear.
Yeah.
It was 60s
okay,
music.
Listen. It sounded... What's the song they play again? If you
hang on, I can get you the exact name of it. Because it's two songs. It's a Beatles song and a Seekers song. The Seekers song is Nobody Knows, The Trouble I've Been in, and the Beatles song was Paperback Writer. The songs actually had to be taken out when audio releases of this episode came out, because, no visuals, so they had to, they did release, the audio of the episode that was recorded on CD and I think on vinyl as well, but they had to take the songs out because, they don't have the license to sell an audio CD with the music on it. They only had it for the TV, so. But in this, I believe it is still the same, yeah.
Heck you. It wasn't 1966, I refuse.
It was 1966?
Nope, I refuse.
It's one of the weirdest, one of the very few times that Doctor Who was actually contemporary and in of its time, of landing in the year that he was in. In Classic Who, that happens kind of rarely. It happens quite a lot if you consider the Third Doctor's era actually exists in the 70s and not in the 80s when it kind of was meant to be set, but that's the unit dating controversy. We still haven't gotten to that yet. It's fine. We'll talk about it later when we get into the 80s.
Oh.
But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I found it funny when you were like, that's not 60s music. it's the Beatles, the most iconic, probably the most iconic musicians from the 60s.
Yeah, but it just came across as something from the 40s and I was confused. Don't worry about it. Listen, a lot of things happened tonight and we all learned that I am not all here.
Yeah. We learned that Dear is not playing We Are Here forever. Anyway, what happens in episode 2, Dear?
The Dalek gets no answer, so he just fries the dude and disappears. At the clock shop, the Doctor sneaks in and Jamie's an idiot and doesn't understand anything. Weird, this place is supposed to sell antiques, but they're all brand new and not reproductions. That's weird. So Jamie has an idea, and he's like, I think they made a time machine, and they bring old stuff here from old times. He's actually 100%
Jamie, that's
correct.
Stupid.
He's actually 100% correct.
Yep.
Mutton Chops comes upon the thief, now dead, and asks the Dalek what the fuck is happening, and then the dog poofs away, and Mutton Chops is like, I can't do this! The Doctor shows up with Rosecoat, and he goes, you have to explain. And then, oh my god, there's a man named Kin, and Mutton Chops goes in and has another weird box this time, and puts it in the time machine thingy with a rip photo of the Doctor. And then he hides, and then the Doctor's like, motherfucker, this TARDIS is mine, you took my property. And then they all find the dead body and want to call the police, but the phone has some weird interference. So we find that half picture, and the Doctor's like, and they're still being led around. They find the secret room in the other half of the picture inside the box, which of course Jamie opens up and has knockout gas, and they all disappear. Meanwhile, Rose has brought a cop.
They all collapse.
No, they do. They do both.
Disappear because of the gas.
Well, no, but they knock out and then they disappear for other reasons.
Yeah, Whitefield comes up and activates the machine and they disappear.
Meanwhile, Rose has brought a cop to the dead body and he's like, I don't know where everybody is. I swear I did not kill this man. Cut to a lovely morning with them sleeping on sofas and a lady bringing some tea. And they're like, oh, you had a party. Oh. And then you were all drunk, and we can't see and remember the date or where they are, and Mutton Chops comes in with Karl Marx, and he goes, I fucked you up, by the way. We also need to talk about this horrible power that took my daughter Victoria, and we avoid the word Dalek for a long time, and please just follow me. We're still not going to say that word, and we're not going to let you know what it is.
We don't say the D word.
We don't say the D word until the very exact moment. And now we meet Victoria, who's feeding birds and is trapped by Daleks who order her to eat. And we will forcibly make you eat and pee because we noticed that you are losing weight because we played heavy metal in your ears and you did not like it. And she's like, please let me go. And he's like, no. So the Dalek just
Nope.
leaves. And the Doctor's like, fucking tell me things. No one is telling me things. Marx thinks they're brilliant. Mutton Chops thinks they're inhuman monsters. And Marx always wanted to travel through time. Mutton Chops pays him to work for him for time travel. Bullshit, bullshit, science, science. I didn't give a fuck. Look, we have a lot of mirrors in this cabinet. It involves static electricity.
Was the point. I believe
Mhm.
this is the point where Deer accidentally burnt off a chunk of their tongue.
Yes. I did zone out so hard that I ate candy that is quote-unquote the most sour in the world and is known to cause mouth lesions, and I ate 2 of them in a row. And I didn't realize what I was doing until the moment that, like, I tasted blood, and it was not great. Anyway, apparently, they brought together a whole bunch of things in a cabinet that work in time, space, continuum. Doctor's like, woo! But then a Dalek comes up and he's like, hey, what's up? We need to destroy the TARDIS unless you help us with the test. And so we gotta test Jamie with something, and they tell him absolutely nothing about the test, and then the Dalek leaves. And then they want to become invincible by taking something of humans, maybe? So cut to Jamie being tended to by another lady, and then another lady walks in, and she's like, my dad is Karl Marx. And so Jamie stoops around, and near...
My dad is Karl Marx!
Oh! I'm sorry, just... I kind of want to take that out of context and use it on Twitch somewhere. So Jamie snoops around, and a nearby vagrant man has shown up in the window and promptly beats the shit out of him and runs the fuck away. And the maid thinks he's sleeping, and then she also maybe gets kidnapped. The Doctor, meanwhile, is going to refuse to not talk to Jamie. And then they're like, oh, he's just sleeping. But no, actually, he was kidnapped. Karl Marx is told to go explain the test to the Doctor by the Daleks, and the Doctor is still finding clues. And they're like, if we can't find Jamie, they're going to murder everyone. And scene.
Good.
Yeah.
And scene.
Mm-hmm.
So there's little Easter eggs that when they were animating this, because as I realized we didn't introduce, every episode of this is missing except for episode 2, which was found and returned. Which is why we're watching it now, because it was released back in 2021, and I'd been waiting for a day that would be good to slot it in. I thought, you know what, the difference between the 70s and the 80s, there's quite a stark difference, so we may as well use that as a wedging point to put some other episodes in. So in the animated segments, there are several little Easter eggs, nods to other things. One of them is posters that advertise Chameleon Tours, which is the fake agency used in the Faceless Ones, the previous story, which was also animated. There's posters advertising rock bands such as The Who.
Who?
Several bands on a single poster, like Pink Floyd, I think the Rolling Stones, and there's another one for a band called John Smith and the Common Men, which is an in-joke to a band from a story that was released by Big Finish in 2013, that was released for the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who, in where the 5th Doctor shows his companion the Beatles and wants to go back time to the 60s, 1963, to show her the Beatles. They go back in time and everyone's going, oh my god, they're here, you know, Beatlemania type thing. And they're like, wait a minute, that's not the Beatles. Who are they? And they went, it's the Common Men. Come on, don't you know them? It's actually a really good story. I highly recommend it. Long story short, there's this whole thing about, wait a minute, time's gone wrong. Why aren't the Beatles famous? Uh-oh, this band instead got famous? They're called the Common Men. So it's a little in-joke to that story. There's also another posters, sort of in-joke, referencing a comic artist of, you know, several Doctor Who creators, and another one that's a little cheeky monk, which has a face that closely resembles the meddling monk from the Time Meddler episode. Another thing as well is the candlesticks on the mantel shelf in the room where the Doctor and Jamie wake up have miniature weeping angels built into them, and in the background on the walls of the Maxtable house, crests listing the names of various actors who have played the Doctor are displayed, including Baker, Eccleston, and Martin. Separate crest reads Whittaker. Whilst this could be a production area intended to refer to Jodie Whittaker, it's most likely a reference to David Whittaker, the writer of the story. But also, because this is as animated, this animation extends the longest consecutive run of animated Doctor Who episodes to 17 now. Previously, the Macra and the Faceless Ones served as an unbroken run of 10 episodes, and now that the Evil of the Daleks, which comes right after those, has been released, it's now 7 episodes. Prior to these 3 stories, the longest consecutive run was 7 episodes, starting with episode 4 of the 10th Planet and running through to the end of The Power of the Daleks, which is a thing because all of the first season of the Second Doctor's series is lost in some shape or form, unfortunately. Although, it could be worse. His first season isn't the best out of his. What happens in the next episode, dear?
Well, now everybody knows that Jamie's kidnapped and the Doctor has found some straws, so they're like, oh, Jamie's pretty weak and the dude wants to be paid, so he's like, I'm gonna go talk to Bowtie Man. But he was also told to bring Jamie from the house, right? So here's your fucking money and leave, because I didn't tell you to do this. But then he has a fit of weird brain noise and gets confused about where Toby and Victoria are. And he apparently has a whole conversation before the Doctor shows up and Bowtie leaves. Victoria wants to go back to her father, but she's like, okay, I guess I'm going to move to another place to sit. And hurry the fuck up, you walk slow as hell, bitch. And the Doctor is sure that Jamie is going to do everything he is asked to do. By the way, Jamie is hidden away and hears this and doesn't like it. The Dalek comes up and talks to Karl Marx about testing equipment and people, and he's a very stupid man. A man walks in, and he's, of course, a person of color, and he is given a stick to bend, to which he can't, but then he takes his shirt off, and Karl Marx goes, ooh. And because he actually kind of does. And then he bends it around his neck. Also, I pick up some stools and break a piece of wood with one blow. And he doesn't talk. And they're just like, oh, yes, you're doing very well. Good job. And it's just like, Here, take this photo
Doctor Who has a complex relationship with race. And it's not a good one, especially in the 60s.
So here, take this photo of Jamie and fucking kill him if you see him. Thanks. And the Dalek comes out and goes, wow, that's hot, when he took his shirt off. I forgot I wrote that. Thank you, past me. That was hot. The door he's asked to guard is an obstacle, and there's spears behind it to kill people. So if he gets through the door, fucking kill him. And the Daleks don't trust the Doctor, but he has no choice. But why Jamie? It's because he's a companion. And the Doctor's too well-traveled. And Jamie is stupid. And the Doctor's not human. So you can't do it. Also, we have a box of Daleks that need to be activated with the human factor. If he does this, then there will be super Daleks, but again, we have no choice. Jamie is asked to rescue Victoria, by the way. That's it. That's the whole thing. Bowtie McCrimmon is brought to Jamie, and he's confused why Jamie is fucking here. But then Bowtie gets another brain fuzzy and runs away. And Maid is like, I'll take your bags to your room. By the way, this house is haunted. And the Maid is just fucking stupid conversation. But the Doctor shows up and goes, leave. And the Doctor tries to talk to Jamie about history and stuff, and Jamie's upset. And he's like, I just don't do everything you tell me to do. And he's like, you know what? Fine, Jamie. And Mutton Chop shows up and he goes, yes, I told that one kid my daughter's in Paris. What the fuck? Also, what the fuck, Doctor? Okay, whatever. And the Doctor goes, whatever you do, Jamie, do not go rescue that girl. Whatever you do. Okay, see you after that's done. And then he leaves. And then Jamie leaves, and he's like, okay, well, he's gonna go do that when he cools off. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, Bowtie is in the barn again with Thievey Man, who wanted to see him, and apparently he was not paid the amount he wanted, and he was just like, go to London, bitch, I don't care. And then Bowtie threatens him with a pitchfork, and Thievey Dude knocks the fuck out of him and steals all his money when he touches the fuzzy, and got dizzy. So,
I get it.
Yeah. Jamie is sneaking around at night, and the maid gives Jamie a map of the house, obviously going to save Victoria. The maid is going to help. Jamie's thoughts are going to be recorded, and the doctor selects the feelings to make a human. And they're going to be put into the Daleks. The maid and Jamie are continuing their way, and Battery Dude sneaks into the house/science room. He has found the Daleks, and the Daleks have found him, and he makes a run for it, but he gets killed. Oops. Jamie sends the maid away and is lighting himself some candles when the secret door opens. But a bat flies out at the exact right moment and stops him from being impaled. But then the very strong man is at the top of the stairs and is ready to fucking kill him.
Da-da!
Da-da.
So, this was actually the first Doctor Who episode to be re-released and not re-released, repeated in its entirety. It occurred during June and August of 1968, and they used it to fill gaps between season 5 and 6, with a 2-week gap between episodes 3 and 4 to accommodate for the BBC's extended coverage of the Wimbledon tennis tournament. Unlike most reruns, though, this repeat actually was worked into the narrative of the series by having Zoe watch the events of the episode unfold via like a TV that was hidden in the TARDIS, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like for the repeats, episode 1 had an added voiceover by Patrick Troughton and Wendy Padbury immediately after the title sequence, referring back to the fact that it was like shown to Zoe, and he's like, "Now remember, Zoe, it all started when Jamie and I spotted someone making off with the TARDIS." And then she's like, "But what about those Daleks you showed me?" And he's like, "We're coming to that, Zoe. Let me just tell you the story from the beginning." That's why it's a bit. I find it weird that they did that, but they do reference it at the end of the episode in season 5 and 6, I believe, as well. Because it's like immediate. I believe it's immediately just before the Dominators. And I believe they reference it in that. I can't remember. I haven't watched The Dominators since, we watched it, which was, 2 years ago?
Something.
Quite a long time.
It's been a while.
Like that. Yeah. So, before this was animated, there was a sort of a studio called Loose Cannon Productions, who made photo snaps and recreations of Doctor Who episodes, and you could send in a VHS tape and they would copy it on there for you, and you could, they'd send it back to you and you could watch it. For their reconstruction of this serial, they actually went to the house where this serial was filmed and got permission from the owner to, film a number of scenes using, full-size Daleks and having, the owner of the house's wife play the part of Victoria, wear the wig and everything, to, try and get some more moving shots in it, rather than just flat pictures, because they tend to use photos from production stills or just photos of TVs sometimes that people would have taken. So it's like, hey, we can vary it up a little, get a little bit more in there. I've never watched it myself. I believe I got I've watched a few episodes of the Loose Cannon one, but I don't think I've watched all of it. Because I would have remembered that. Initially, also, each episode of this was given its own title, like they used to back in the first Doctor's days. The episode titles were To Set a Trap, The Net Titans, A Trial of Strength, A Test of Skill, The Human Factor, and The End of the Daleks. The ending scene of episode 1 was also shown again during episode 6 of The Wheel in Space, in sort of readiness for, upcoming repeat transmission. This unintentionally ensured that a small amount of footage survived from episode 1, even though it's only 3 frames. Because that's how they did it, where it's because the end of The Wheel in Space is Zoe joins the team, so they're like, "Hey Zoe, this was this time when I fell asleep." So they managed to keep a little bit more, even though also The Wheel in Space is missing a shit ton. Anyway, what happens in the next episode, dear?
Well, Jamie's being choked out, and then they fight, and they fight. And then they fight downstairs, and then they fight with the vase, and then they fight with their fists, and then they fight with the table. And then he hides behind a door, so we fight with the door and break through it, which opens to another door, which leads to the roof. It's I don't know. Anyway, and then a Dalek comes around the corner and he has a rag on his sticky bit. I wrote sticky bit, but
handkerchief.
It's a handkerchief. I meant his stick, like his plunger. Don't worry about it. Listen, it's been a long stick. June, and I have been so PG-13 recently for Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the strong man gets saved, and he's like, "Oh, you saved me." And the Dalek drops the rag, and it's Victoria's handkerchief, and it almost gets him killed, but strong man saves him from the trap. And then the Doctor is talking about what Jamie has been doing and the humany bits that he is producing and how they need to have mercy. Mutton Chops is like, "You found thief dead on the floor," and the Dalek rolls in like, "Intruder," and "Obey me." And Dalek is like, "Oh, you're going to hide the remains of this dead body." And Marx is like, "Okay." And Mutton Chops has a fucking breakdown about what's going on and admits he's going to confess everything to a judge about what happens and what is happening. So Karl Marx gets himself a gun. Jamie learns that the strong man can't talk, which is great. And then he just writes his name in the dust, and then he motions that he knows Victoria, and she gave him flowers, and he likes her, and we're gonna work together now. And then the Doctor is recording this, and back to Mutton Chops, he hears something, and we see Bowtie in the back of the barn. And Marx is like, "Fucking Mutton Chops, dude, I'm fucking sick of you. You do all this shit. You complain. I housed you. I tried to help you with your daughter, and you're just a piece of shit. You're fucking... can't even deal with you." And then he's like, "Go lay down, and we'll talk about this later." And then when he turns around, Marx pulls a gun. And then Bowtie runs out and goes, "Don't do it." And he's like, "Fuck, fine." And Jamie and Strongman are headed in a direction, and the Doctor is still recording it. They almost get caught by a mace trap, but they're fine. Daleks don't trust the Doctor. He talks about the 5 senses, but there's also instinct, which Jamie just, I guess, used. Even though that's not really it. It's whatever. Victoria is now at a balcony and is asked her name and then sent back to her room. And Jamie is now watching this, and she goes, "Oh, she's pretty." And then Strongman just takes a fucking mace off the wall to attack the Daleks, so Jamie can go for Victoria. And his thought pattern is about self-preservation and suicidal tasks. And the maid is like, "I heard Victoria," and the Bowtie is just like, "What the fuck? No, she's in Paris, and I'm a dick." And then Marx's daughter shows up, and the three of them argue, and she tells Bowtie to fuck off, and he's like, "Fine." Daughter asks him to just run away with her, but he can't go yet because something's fucked with my brain. I don't really know what's going on. Help me. Oh my god. Marx is asking them to speed up the process, and then they run him over and tell him to shut up and obey them because he was doing this for a secret that he wants. And then his daughter comes in and goes, "What the fuck is going on?" and pulls out a piece of metal from a can, and he goes, "Listen, we need the most amazing secret. The secret to make gold from any metal." And we have another inspection with Victoria, and then we move to attack the Dalek and use a rope, and we blow him up. And then they use that same rope to climb up to the balcony. But then Daleks roll into the room, and behind them, and oh no.
Oh. So, Deborah Watling, who played Victoria, recalled that the Dalek operators would often prank her on this by using their plungers on her in rude ways when her back was turned. I will leave you to imagine what they did.
No, I don't have to imagine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, continue.
Oh, okay. Sure. Also, initially, it's kind of rumored that Victoria wasn't their first choice to stay on as a companion. They kind of initially wanted sort of Molly Dawson, who was... You remember that maid?
Yes.
The really annoying maid?
Yeah.
When his uncle was killed in the Crimean War?
Yeah.
Initially, she was going to be a companion, but then they were like, "Yeah, no."
boy.
No, we're gonna go with Victoria instead. We want Victoria. For quite a number of reasons, but I understand. So initially, when they were filming the final episode, they got a call from higher ups, basically telling them don't kill the Daleks, and they had already filmed like the final scene. So they were like, "Oh shit, what do we do?" And so they came up with the idea of like, because remember, this whole thing is meant to be the end of the Daleks forever. So obviously, the end of the episode is them all dying. Sorry, I bumped my microphone. So what they ended up doing was like, oh fuck, we can't refilm this whole scene that we've done because it's this beautiful scene of chaos. Well, it was. You can still kind of see part of it when you look at special features and shit. They came up with the idea of like, oh, what if we just zoom in on one Dalek and have his lights turn back on? That'll work. Which, sure. But yeah, it's kind of a weird. I'll get more into like the final scene later. But it's kind of weird that like they weren't sure until like just when they were finishing filming it of like, hang on, what if we tried to keep the Daleks alive in case we can change Terry Nishan's mind or bring the Daleks back somehow? It's like, we don't want to close that door forever. We need to bring them back. Which, is interesting. But what happens in the next part, dear?
Okay, well, the Daleks are surrounding them, and they're going to use the rope again to get this Dalek to fall off the balcony, but there's another one down there, so whoops. So we get the door open, get to Victoria, bolt it, secure it. That doesn't really do anything against the Daleks, but don't worry about it. The Doctor is down with Bowtie having a drink, and they chat about the collections, and he's like, you know, I've noticed you don't eat or drink or breathe, really. And Bowtie grabs a sword and he's like, oh, look, a sword. And it's weird when Bowtie holds things, it magnetizes it like he's full of electricity or something. And so Bowtie, when the Doctor leaves, tries to get a drink, but then, Albie, screams in his head and he doesn't drink for some reason. It's kind of weird that they don't let him drink or eat. It's fine. Jamie's asking Victoria about stuff and how she's obeyed someone without questioning it. Cut to Karl Marx hypnotizing a maid. Full stop.
As you do.
As you do.
I mean, Karl Marx was famous for that.
And I guess he was the one that did that to Victoria. Bowtie is like, wow, you're really impressive, Mr. Marx. And then Bowtie has a moment where he doesn't fully understand what's going on, and Marx says, obey me. And he's like, yeah, okay. So do this task, which I'm going to tell you, and go down the secret passage and get Victoria. And he's like, okay. Doctor has a brain with all of the emotions of Jamie, and maybe we're going to put it in these Daleks. The Daleks come in and goes, do the thing, and don't do anything bad, Doctor. We're watching you. And Mutton Chops is telling the Doctor to stop, please. Oh, God, we can't do this. And he's like, it's a little late for that. And he's like, what are they really doing? Turning them into superior beings? We can't do this. And he's like, have you even considered, like, attacking the Doctor? But then they chat, and we listen to how we need to free Victoria and Jamie, and the Doctor, however, seems to have a plan, and Jamie and the strongman have a plan, and the too bad Bowtie sneaks in and fucks up the plan, and they're on the way out, but she fights and screams and gets Jamie's attention. During the chase, they come across a crossroad, and Jamie is the only one to go in the right direction. Strongman goes in the opposite direction, and Jamie and Bowtie have a sword fight, and Jamie wins. And Marx's daughter comes in, and they're like, oh my God, what happened? We have to take him away from here. And the Doctor pulls a thing off of him, which is huge, and he goes, okay, well, I guess he was brain-controlled. Get out of here! Jamie is now upset that the Doctor lied about Victoria, and Strongman has made his way back to the science-y room, where he's found Victoria, and there's also a Dalek here, and he's told to pick up Victoria, and go into the mirror cabinet dimension, and they disappear. Jamie is still upset.
Mirror cabinet dimension?
The mirror cabinet dimension, yes. Jamie is still upset at thinking everyone is being mean, and he's going insane, and he's having a fit because he's now finished with the Doctor, and after this, he's gonna leave. The Daleks are now awake in the box, and apparently they are friends? Marx comes in and explains why they can trust them because they're made of all the good parts of humans. And then they pick up the Doctor and spin him around in a circle and have fun. Whee!
Train!
Whee!
Train! So, initially, this episode was going to be a little bit different. Initially, they were going to have the Doctor and Edward Waterfield travel back to Earth in the year 2000 BC and retrieve a caveman named Og, from whom the Doctor was to deduce the essence of humanity. The Daleks' plan was to eradicate this quality from every generation of man, thereby eliminating Earth as a threat. Meanwhile, Jamie and Victoria were going to be joint held in hostage on Skaro, but they decided to change it to this instead, this sort of abstract, weird story about, like, we need to figure out what makes humans humans and then put that in Daleks and that'll make us stronger.
And
when
also
it's like,
completely betraying Jamie's trust throughout the entire situation, but whatever.
yeah, it's a bit weird. It's really, really weird. They kind of wanted to do another pass on it, but, you know, Doctor Who in the 60s, they didn't have time to do that. It just had to get fucking done. But yeah, it was all this shit about, like, this caveman, like, he was gonna come back and he was gonna play a big part. Like, he was, like, think, like, Kamel and all that. But even more so, but, like, even more of a role than him. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Terry Nation was also supposed to be credited with creating the Daleks in each episode, like, you know, they do at the end of the credits, being like, you know, this thing created by this person used with permission. But someone forgot to fucking do it, so the continuity announcer had to do it. You know, the person who's like, and coming up next, BBC PP, 7 o'clock, it's the news. That person had to be like, the Daleks were created by Terry Nation. Because otherwise they'd kind of be in a bit of legal trouble. They'd made a similar error during the previous Whittaker story that he had written, which, you know, kind of seems to be it. Also, the director, Derek Martinez, seemed to get on the actors' nerves. One rehearsal reportedly ended in the entire cast going off and playing cards in the kitchen. In the studio, the Dalek voice artist got so annoyed during a scene with the, quote, baby Daleks, that Roy Skelton amended a line and saying, "What's it all about, Alpha?" Fraser Hines tried out one of the Dalek props, and while he was inside it, he overheard two of the guest cast bitching about the director in specific, and the program as a whole being, like, not fucking worth it at all. So yeah, another example of you know, a director not really fitting in well with Doctor Who. But anyway, what happens in the next part, dear?
Fun. So they talk to the Daleks about friends and how friends don't kill friends, and they give them all names and symbols.
What are the names?
Alpha, Omega, and Beta.
Oh, so Doctor Who's going ABO, are they?
Sure it is, soy boy. So we're all friends, and friends don't attack each other.
Just call me soy boy.
I did. You got a problem with that?
Boy. Beta cuck.
This isn't even a funny joke. Anyway, they were
I was going for ABO as in a megaverse, not... I don't know what the fuck you were going on about.
I'm an alpha.
Right-wing derogatory terms? Pejoratives?
Yes!
What's wrong with a little bit of a megaverse, dear?
Because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
You don't know a megaverse?
No.
Oh my god. Everyone,
is...
please tweet at Dear explaining what the Omegaverse is. Dear needs to know.
No, that's why I thought you were making an alpha beta joke, and I was just like, alright, this is where we are now.
Sure.
Anyway, so... all the Daleks are called away because they're on orders to return to Skaro, where Victoria is sent. Oh god, she's not at home. Marks mentions to Mutton Chops that the Daleks released her and she's fine. And he leaves, and then Marks decides to fuck with the computers, but a Dalek comes in and asks, like, what he's doing. He's like, there's this new box, and it's weird, and the Dalek goes, don't touch it. But Mutton Chops listens in and knows he's working for the Daleks for gold. But as soon as the Dalek leaves, he touches the box and calls for the doctor because he realizes it's a bomb. Enter Mutton Chops, and he goes, I fucking know you were working for them, fuck ass. This is all your fault, Karl Marx. How dare you? Mutton Chops wants to know what the fuck was going on. Where is Victoria? And attacks him, and Marx knocks out Mutton Chops. And then Dalek comes in and goes, haha, I'm gonna bomb this place. There's only like 2 minutes, and we find the doctor pretty fast. So we should find the doctor pretty fast. So we keep screaming really loudly, and then we just leave into the closet of mirrors while still screaming for the doctor, weirdly. Okay. And then more Daleks roll into the room and into the mirror closet, enter the doctor, and we tell him about the bomb, and we follow the Daleks to Skaro, apparently, but the door is locked. Whoopsie. And then they learned about the time machinery thing that we used earlier, and we stand in it, except Jamie, who keeps delaying for some weird reason, even though there's a fucking bomb. And then they whoosh whoosh away, and the bomb goes off. Victoria and Strongman are now awake somewhere on Skaro, wondering what's going on. And Karl Marx is brought into the holding cell, and they learn that they're on the Dalek planet. And he gets very pissy about this. And then a Dalek comes in and gets Karl Marx and goes, please follow me, thanks. And Victoria and Kim will have a conversation about that. We're only half here. And then cut to the doctor, Chops, and Jamie sneaking around. They have found the Dalek city and need to walk their way over there. And he's like, nah, actually, it's all over the place. The Daleks are upset that Marx did not bring the doctor with him, and he's upset that his house is gone, and he demands to know why the fuck they double-crossed him. And they're like, well, you disobeyed us, so I'm gonna fucking kill you! And they start beating on him, and then the alarm goes off, and he's told to keep moving. And then there's other humans inside the city, and Victoria gets excited by this. The doctor is still sneaking around and hasn't been found just yet, but the Dalek Alpha is looking around in awe, and it's like, ooh, oh. And then another Dalek comes up and goes, what the fuck is that on you? And he's like, it's my cutie mark, and my friend the doctor gave it to me. And,
God, just the idea of that, I pain.
Yeah, it's almost super Hulakian. Anyway, so they get
oh god, don't
that Dalek to also follow them, and Victoria is shuffled somewhere else as well, and that's where we stop.
Yeah, that is where we stop. Fucking hell.
We just stop entirely. There's nothing else.
There is nothing else. It's that it. Sorry, I'm just reading into the whole caveman thing because it's really weird. Initially, to continue with it, Og was going to be taken back to 1880, where he starts menacing Anne, who was Victoria's mother, and the Daleks ultimately plan to change human development by releasing the Dalek factor in Caveman's time. The climax of the story might well have taken place in Victorian London instead of Skaro. Initially, also, the final scene in where the Daleks get destroyed, we'll get to how that happens in a bit. So, the full-scale Emperor's Chambers and smaller-scale version were almost identical, confirming, as those who saw it broadcast claim, that the models were nearly undetectable in the fast-edited climax. Models were also filmed at 4 times normal speed, and there was a lot of dry ice, smoke, and real flame on the set, like they were burning models. Which gave the illusion of scale, bulk, and weight when slowed down to normal. The death of the Emperor was shot in near darkness, illuminated only by explosions and the flashing bulbs on its head unit. Sounds great, doesn't it?
Lovely.
But in that scene where they have like hyper Daleks flying around, the small scale version of it, they're actually using licensed Dalek toys that were made, because they it was just cheaper for them to get because they needed a whole heap, so they're like, fuck it, give us a whole heap of these wind-up Dalek toys, and they just let them fucking go, set some on fire, and just, that was it.
Yeah.
Also, when in the scenes where some Daleks die, when they had the operators were in there, had like gooey. They were meant to have like gooey brains and circuitry for the creatures. The brains were depicted using wallpaper paste dyed green with bits of polystyrene and string mixed in, and they also pulsated as they died. And that was done by the operators gently prodding the tarpaulin on top of them, which had like the little like brain rested on it. So it's like they just push it up slightly to cause like little vibrations on the death. Which, sure, whatever. But no, tell us what happens in the final episode, dear.
The final episode.
There we go. We made the joke. No, we already made the joke.
Reuse to talk to Marks, even though they refuse to talk to Marks, even though he's speaking to them when brought into another jail cell. And they take Marks somewhere else, even though it's dark, and they make him scream. And then it stops, and then they take Victoria, and we hear her scream. And Jamie's like, ah! And nearly falls to his death. And then the friendly Dalek Omega apparently shows up, and he's going to lead them through. But when the Doctor trips and looks at it, the Omega symbol looks weird. And the Doctor catches that and pushes the Dalek off the edge. And he's like, I didn't draw that. And Marks apparently is alive and was told to scream and also make Victoria scream. And they had a reason for it, because their Doctor is sneaking around the base and the Daleks start to follow them and they're trapped now. But they're brought to the central core thingy where the main Dalek King guy is, and he whispers to Jamie, like, get ready to fucking run. But now, by the way, the human factor is in some Daleks, so there's going to be a rebellion, bitch, haha. And he's like, actually, we were doing that to figure out what we didn't want in Daleks. We actually now know our own strengths, so we tricked you, haha. Our 3 Dalek friends will become impregnated with more Daleks. Also, we have your TARDIS, so you get to help build the actual strong Daleks by spreading it through all of Earth. Woo! Or we're gonna kill everybody. And your TARDIS. The Daleks are doing their experiments on the side while everyone else is in Dalek jail. And we also learn about the whole metal to gold thing that Marks was attempting. The Doctor basically goes, you're an idiot. Daleks don't give a shit. They start a fight. Then it's broken up by a Dalek. Mutton Chop notes that the Daleks are willing to protect Karl Marx. And he asks for help, and Karl Marx refuses. The Doctor's trying to figure out a problem. He's trying to decide what to do, because he can't promise anything, because it's 5 lives versus literally all of the people on Earth ever. Like, ever.
I don't know, that's a pretty hard decision.
And then we chat with Victoria about the other planets, and the Doctor has a thought. And then a Dalek comes up, and he's like, what kind of Dalek? And they start on their equipment, and then apparently it's time to stop. But then one of them goes, wait, why? And the Dalek gets fucking pissed.
It's time to stop.
And then more of them just, like, get confused. And then he runs off. Marx is shown the secret to transmuting metal, supposedly, and we see some iron change its atomic weight. And he brags that they kept their promise to him, and the Doctor goes, oh my god, don't go near that. And then he does, and his brain is now controlled by all of the Daleks.
Now he's the Dalek.
And then the Dalek comes back to tell him to move the controls, and this is how we're going to take over everyone on Earth. Woohoo! Then Marx has picked up a rat cage and moved it slightly to near the open door to walk through, and he tells the Doctor to wake up because he's apparently hypnotized him, and the Doctor's here to help. Okay, he's here to help the Doctor, I guess, sure. He's like, I'll take you to the TARDIS and save you, and then they go and leave. And Jamie wakes up just as the Doctor walks through that same door, and he's like, bleh. And then he's like a Dalek now, I guess. And they're going to work on the Dalek factor together now. So, whoops, the machine stops at its Dalek factor production. And then one is changing the thoughts of to steam? What the
One is changing the thoughts to steam?
Okay. The machine is going to change the Daleks' thoughts of, like, obeying and exterminating and stuff to steam that they are then going to cover the Earth with. That's the plan.
Basically, yeah.
The doctor is left to examine the machine, and then he's like, ooh, and sneaks away, and he's like, I'm fine, wee! And he replaces the Dalek emotion thingy with the humany one. And we tell Jamie to bring everyone through the door when I say so. But everyone's like, what? Aren't you a Dalek? And the doctor has been brought to the king, and he tells them to make them go through the archway, because to find out which ones of the Daleks are being insurrectionists, they're just going to all be turned back into Daleks. So the only ones that'll be affected are the humany ones, right? Right?
Sure, yeah, exactly.
It'll make the Daleks Daleki, and it fixes it. And
Dalekis?
Yeah. Karl Marx is sent to deal with the human prisoners, by the way. Cut to all the Daleks going through the archway, and then the doctor's like, come on, let's go through the door quickly, oh my god. And then the doctor's like, I don't come from Earth, you fucking idiots. Why would it make me a Dalek if I'm not human? Which makes zero fucking sense. Anyway.
Why would it do that? Why would the Daleks then be affected by it?
Yes.
They're not human.
Like, I don't, is the only, the only juxtaposition, but like going from Dalek to human, are those the only two options here? Are those the two genders? I just don't know.
They are the two genders. You're either human or Dalek. Dear, what's your fucking gender? I know it's Dalek, but I'm gonna ask anyway.
It's Dalek. What about you?
It's Dalek. We all know you're a Dalek. Me, I'm a Khalid. I'm not a Dalek. I'm not a human. I'm a Khalid. I'm the precursor to a Dalek.
Oh, that makes sense. Gotcha.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That explains a whole lot.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry about your childhood.
It's alright, I'm a Khalid. I had no childhood. There's been just war.
Exactly, that's why I said.
It's just war.
I'm sorry about your childhood.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. I'm sorry about your childhood. Jesus fuck.
Yeah.
You talk about no childhood. You were fucking born on like an assembly line.
Yeah. I'd like to think that the robotic arm that was shoved up my butt was my mom. So anyway.
That's not how...
Hmm?
Okay.
There's parts that go up there.
Sure.
Anyway, all the Daleks are now...
I mean, you do you. No judgment.
Sounds like judgment. It sounds like judgment.
No.
In this month.
You do you.
In this month. It sounds like judgment.
You do
anyway,
you, man.
The Daleks are now questioning everything and having a fun time getting dizzy, touch fuzzy. And they're like, why shouldn't we obey? And they start to attack each other. And then they attack the mean Dalek, who also blows up. And then the doctor tells all the nice Daleks to follow him and to continue to question and unionize. Go on.
Can I make a bad joke about the Daleks?
Go on.
They're going around questioning everything, being like, why do I have to wear a mask?
Oh. Why do I need a vaccine?
Why?
Why should
I get vaccinated?
I have antibodies.
I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. Hydroxychloroquine.
Holy shit.
I think deer just coughed out the rest of their tongue.
Yeah, I did. It's great.
Oh my god.
The questioning revolution is here, by the way. Mutton Chops dies for the doctor. It's a whole... And for some reason, whereas everybody else in this universe dies instantly when a Dalek shoots them because their insides get microwaved, he has plenty of time to be like, Doctor, please take care of Victoria. Tell her I love her. She's a great daughter. She's done all these amazing achievements, like that one time when she was a kid and it like goes on for a while and then he dies. It's fine. And then the king is like, oh my god, please obey me. Oh, oh no. And then there's flashing lights and shit and explosions, and one Dalek goes up the wall. It's absolute chaos. Marx is in the mood to kill, pushes strongmen off a cliff, but then an emergency alert sounds and all Daleks are called to return to the control center. And he still thinks he's a Dalek, so he goes back to the control center. So yeah. Marx is being very insane and brainwashed, and he goes, "Forever Daleks, woo, live forever." And the doctor sneaks away. And we chat for a while between, like, the doctor and What's-Her-Face and Jamie. And I really don't like her, okay?
Listen, she's my least favorite, like, second Doctor companion as
I'm
well. I'm not the biggest fan of
I'd
Victoria.
like to also add that the next line I wrote in my notes has her name, and I just didn't notice it. Anyway, we don't have the time for this, but we have this conversation, and we're like, all right, Jamie, let's go to the TARDIS. And she's like, wait, what about Victoria? We can't just leave her here. And he's like, oh, she's coming with us. And we see her fucking crying because her dad is dead. And they're like, let's go on adventures, Victoria. And they're like, it's okay. All the Daleks are dead forever now. Cut to a single Dalek that isn't dead. Yeah,
they're all dead except for one, which means they're all coming back.
Yep.
And so that's the evil of the Daleks, and the end of this episode leads directly into the next episode, The Tomb of the Cybermen, which is still one of my favorite Second Doctor ones, despite its unfortunate racismo.
Racismo?
Racist elements. Racismo. Attorney at law, remember?
Gotcha.
Despite its forthcomings. But that's the evil of the Daleks. What did you think, dear?
I fucking hated it. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
There's so many things that it's literally like, we're gonna tell you about this evil thing. This thing that is so evil. That evil thing. That evil thing. Man, it's done all these evil things. Wow. Oh. Did I forget to mention what the evil thing was? I'm sorry. It was so evil. Man. That evil thing, though.
Here's the thing. I can nail down
exactly
why this isn't a great episode. It isn't the best. It's a pretty weak premise stretched to 7 episods. That's it. That's all you need to say.
100%.
It's a really weak premise that could maybe be an okay to decent to just 4 episode. It's stretched into 7 episodes, which makes it
hell, half of this episode could have just taken place on Skaro instead, and it would have been fine.
Well, that's the thing, is you have it broken up. You have the first 2 episodes in modern day in 1966, and then you have the next 3 episodes in 1866, and then you have the last 2 episodes in Skaro. But the problem is there's such a little difference between the 2 time periods that there's not much of a difference. They needed to really have a starker contrast between we needed to not see anything of the Daleks until the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
Because the first 2 episodes needed to be all about someone has stolen the TARDIS, who has, and why. And then episode 3 comes around and it's like, oh god, the Daleks stole the TARDIS, and now we need to work for them to get it back. And then it goes, okay, we've tricked the Daleks, now we're back on Skaro, and we need to get back at the Daleks for stealing the TARDIS and, being Daleks.
Yeah.
But there's not that much contrast. It kind of just meanders between them all. It could have been a lot better, but David Whittaker's writing is
arguments for the sake of arguments. It's dragging shit out for just time and not needing to.
Yeah.
It's using the term it or they instead of the Dalek just to pad time.
Yeah.
And it's one of my
It's
biggest
especially
fucking
when it's
pet
like we already
peeves.
know it's the Daleks.
Yeah.
Like we've already seen a Dalek, and it's like, okay, the Doctor doesn't know it's the Daleks, but it's like, okay, why didn't you just fucking do that to begin with? Like have something like that.
Anything.
But it's yeah, it could have been a lot better. It's why I wasn't ever really jumping for joy at this one, because it's like I knew what it was about, and I'm like, this is a really weak premise. Like, what even fucking is the human factor? Like,
Yeah.
you could write something with that there, but they don't.
Nope.
But anyway, what do you think? Number 1 to 10, 0 to 10. Sorry,
2.
2.
It is not
That's
the
fair.
worst fucking thing I have seen, but I do not want to watch it again.
Yeah. So, chronologically, the next episode is The Tomb of the Cybermen, which, if you're listening chronologically, enjoy it. I love it. It has a problem, but we talk about the problem in that episode. But for you and I, dear, we're jumping all the way to the 80s. All the way to the 80s. 1980 exactly. And you'll know that it's 1980. Even though technically Shada and the Horns of Nimon would have,
Also,
been aired in the 80s.
If you want to know what my favorite companions are up till now, listen to the commentary.
Oh yeah, we went through that while we were kind of bored.
We actually did go through that.
We were kind of warming up to everything during like episode 1 and 2.
No,
so
let's be honest.
I was just like,
we
hey,
were
dude, what's your favorite Doctor?
We were kind of bored.
Well, I was trying to stay awake, and then I don't know how, but for some reason we started talking about it, and I got like genuinely interested. Of like, who is Dear's favorite Doctor right now?
It's because I asked you if you would feel like you succeeded if you changed my favorite Doctor.
That's right, and
because my current Doctor is the ninth
no.
Doctor, and
I don't think I could change your favorite Doctor because everyone likes their own Doctor for different reasons.
But if you wound up actually changing it, would you feel like you succeeded at something?
I would feel like that is like that would be like an unexpected like bonus side effect. Like I made an omelet and oh shit, I accidentally also just turned the eggs into gold while I was making an omelet.
Also, there's
like,
hollandaise?
It would be like
and bacon?
Yeah, it'd be like, I didn't mean to do this at all, but I mean, it's a welcome addition, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm down.
Yeah, but I don't think that'll happen. But who knows? You may actually end up weirdly liking the 80s. I don't know. Probably not. But anyway, we go to the 80s. Fourth Doctor. We start season 18. The Leisure Hive. You already did the whole thing of like, what's the next episode? So, the Leisure Hive. The Doctor.
It's Final Fantasy VII. The honeybee.
I mean, kind of?
Cloud in a sexy bee bunny suit. That's the episode.
I mean, I wish we got Tom Baker in a sexy bunny. I couldn't even finish saying it. No, it's not that. But the Leisure Hive. Look forward to it. You'll note immediately that yes, it is the 80s. When we look into it, so that's the Evil of the Daleks. I'm Gam. That's Dear. Anything you want to add, Dear?
Fuck the Beatles.
What? Why?
Because they confused me, and I was upset about it.
Oh, okay. Sure.
That's the only reason.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.